Pokemon. It needs no introduction. You know what it is. It's one of the most popular video games of all time, spanning generations with an approachable game design of catching and befriending adorable little monsters, which has allowed it to be loved by almost everybody in the world. It has also resulted in becoming one of the most profitable franchises in the history of the universe. With Pokemon making hundreds of cute creature designs every couple of years, it has resulted in an incredibly strong yet terrifying merchandising machine that is constantly pumping out toys, trading cards, clothing, whatever you can think of. There's a Pokemon product out there, and it will not stop. With this high-speed production of products comes loyal fans ready to spend all their hard-earned money on catching them all, showing their massive collection of trading cards, figurines, and plushies. But with over 1,000 Pokemon you can find, there will always be that one mon that will stick out to someone as their favorite, and they'll dedicate an entire collection to that one mon, finding all the cool figurines, plushies, and cards for that specific creature. And with all this phenomenon, it's got me wondering, if there's a whole abundance of Pokemon you could choose from, and with the merchandising machine being as aggressive as it was since 1996, could you build a collection dedicated to just one singular Pokemon for every single Pokemon? Yep, I'm finally doing this again. It's been a while since my last video, actually. I was planning on doing these kinds of things every year, but for some reason I missed the entirety of 2025. I was just busy with other stuff, and I put off making the Johto collection video for quite some time. But now, with the 30th anniversary of Pokemon Day just right around the corner, what a perfect time to dust off this video and finish what I have just started. For those who haven't seen the Kanto video or need a little bit of refresher, this is a planned ongoing series where I look at every single Pokemon from that region and make a collection dedicated to it, which means finding every plush, figurine, and trading card dedicated to just one Pokemon just to see how well represented that Pokemon is when it comes to merchandising. We looked at all 151 Pokemon from the Kanto region and made a collection of various products for every single one of them. No expense was spared. And now it's time to look at the more 100 Pokemon from the Johto region and give a collection of items for every single one of them. With the Pokemon merchandising machine being as aggressive as it always is, it's going to be interesting to see how fairly each Pokemon is given attention. Or, more realistically, just how unequal it is. The rules are simple. With my new magic shelf that I got, I will look at every single Pokemon and build a collection of merchandise to display. For this experiment, I'm going to find 15 items to build every collection. 15 seems to be a pretty well-rounded number. For the most popular mons, 15 will allow them to show off the best merch they can offer, and for everyone else, it's whatever the hell we can find. Only one collection for each Pokemon, meaning we're not grouping evolutions together, and if there's any merch that has Pokemon's entire evolutions change, then it should be possible for that specific Pokemon to be separated easily and be eligible for the collection. Oh, and speaking of other Pokemon, I'm going to give an update to a ruling that I haven't mentioned in my last video. There are various products featuring more than one different species of Pokemon that can't easily be separated, and I included a few of those in my various Kanto collections. This does bring up the question of if that figure truly should be included as a representation of that specific Pokemon. Take this figure of Seal and Spiel. Wow, I just realized how similar those names are. This figurine was featured in my Seal collection in the last video. Should this figure be a true representation of all Seal products available for you to make your Seal Shrine? So, would it not be eligible for a Spiel collection? So it wouldn't be a little bit redundant to see this figure again in the future. Would it? I mean, technically it could appear in the Spiel collection, but after giving this some thought, I came up with this conclusion. I'll allow merchandise featuring multiple Pokemon if that non-specific Pokemon was already featured in the collection that it appeared from. This will also include Pokemon whose collection haven't been made yet until the future. That's if I assume that Pokemon will be popular enough that I don't have to rely on that chosen figure. That also means if there's a product featuring Pikachu hanging out with a Pokemon, then it's not really a Pikachu product. With how insanely popular Pikachu is and how much its face is plastered everywhere, you can just have a bunch of Pikachu collections while avoiding the specific figurines that feature Pikachu and not Pikachu. Another thing I want to note, I am going to talk about bootleg / mirage plushies and whether or not they'll be used in my collection. In the last video, I used some bootlegs for Pokemon that I really struggled with, and for this video I'll do that as well. I'm going to have a little fun with it, so here are my mirage balls that I will throw and release some bootleg stuff only for Pokemon that I'm struggling with. The only thing with bootlegs is that they must be mass produced to an extent. That includes some fan-made craft projects on Etsy if they can produce at least 10 or more items. I'm not really concerned with the price and rarity of the specific item that I'm going to talk about. It's just not important for this video. I just want to see if a collection can even be possible at all. And if you want to recreate that collection yourself, then you can research the price to make your own choices. With that out of the way, it's time for the main video. Can you dedicate a collection to every single Pokemon, Johto edition? Starting off this list, we have Chikorita. A great Pokemon to start off this collection. We have a variety of plushies, figurines, and other oddities like this nanoblock brick statue. You're also going to see this specific type of plushie called sodas with a much cheaper art style and pastel color palettes. Very interesting. Normally starters do give us some great things to collect for, and while they're not as popular as the Kanto starters, they still get a pretty amount of attention, so we're off to a pretty good start. As was prevalent in my last collection, the mid-stage evolutions are slightly more difficult to find products for. The first and last stages are always going to be the more popular ones. That said, there's still a lot of products for you to get. I'm assuming because Bayleaf was one of Ash's main Pokemon for a while in the Johto anime. I had to cheat a bit and fill the top row with Pokemon Kids Finger Puppet. I'll explain more in detail what the deal is behind those. Another type of merch you'll see pop up from time to time is the trading figure game. Not trading card game, trading figure game. The Pokemon Trading Figure game was a short-lived tabletop game that basically had Pokemon figures move around the board like chess. And when two Pokemon figures collide, they get into battle and spin the Pokemon. There's a little dial on the bottom of it and a wheel, and whatever the dial lands on the bottom is the attack that gets performed. An interesting concept. There's plenty of figurines for different kinds of Pokemon, but sadly was short-lived. There was a mobile app a decade later that reintroduced the concept, but digitally. That too was short-lived. Damn, this thing could not catch a break. And then we have Meganium. Nothing too noteworthy here, though I will mention that the specific Meganium collection and the first few ones were built before the release of Pokemon Legends EA. And then the second half of the collections were released after. But you won't see any merch of the new Mega Evolutions, considering that the game just came out a couple months ago. The only real updates I could find were a bunch of older Mega Evolutions started getting some stuff in 2025. And now we have my personal favorite, Cyndaquil. Lots of cute plushies and figurines. I really love this Cyndaquil keychain plush with a bow. That is so adorable. Then we got a jewelry pendant, a coaster, and a Nanoblocks. Which, in case if you don't know, is basically a brick building company that's similar to LEGO, where you can build these Minecraft looking guys that comes from various anime franchises. Of course, including Pokemon. Which there are a whole ton of. It's pretty funny seeing the whole controversy of the LEGO Pokemon unfolding with its ridiculous pricing, and seeing Nanoblocks continually release pretty cheap and affordable building kits, which as low as $12, to a gigantic 1,000 piece Rayquaza set for $80. And funny enough, they're also planning to release a Mega Charizard Y kit around the same release as the Legos, and according to some sources, it could be priced around $20 to $40. Man, the price difference on these two is just genuinely insane. Quilava, just like Bayleaf, doesn't really have that much, but it's enough to suffice. I really love the posing of this kid's finger puppet. Looks like that meme of that dog looking side-eyed. You know the one.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
Man, it sucks to be that one guy who really loves Typhlosion a lot, and then the files leaked. And thanks to one bad Typhlosion doing that specific thing, it spoils a whole bunch. Well, if you're gonna stick it up for the rest of them, there are a lot of cool plushies and figurines, including a couple of Hisuian forms for you to pick. I love how each merchandise handles the flames coming out of the neck. Some make it fuzzy, others is a piece of felt, some are actually sculpted in the figure, and some make it translucent. It's all pretty nice stuff. Totodile is a funny looking gator, and of course it has some funny looking stuff too, like this derpy looking plush, this zipper pouch, a figure which could be used as an earbud holder it seems, a Christmas plushie where the only Christmas related thing was to add a Christmas tree in its crotch, and a little mug. I love looking at these plushie releases, just seeing all the different ranges of quality control. Like, look at this. This is just funny. Krokna is just like the rest of them. We got another trading figure game piece, nothing special, moving along. Now here comes Feraligatr. Unlike Typhlosion, there's not a lot of unique elements or different interpretations to note. It seems mostly on model, which does feel a little bit boring. But I do like this trading figure piece. The way that they attempt to sculpt Feraligatr springing up from a pool of water is just so cool to look at. That's what I love about the trading figure game. They tend to sculpt a lot of action-y poses. And no, sadly, our Feraligatr Machamp Fusion plush will not be in this collection, sadly. Though, if you do want to build your own Feraligatr collection, there's nothing stopping you from adding this. You know, aside from the fact that it's bootleg. Now that we have the starters over, it's time for the real challenge. Starting with our regional rodents, Sentret. I thought Sentret was going to give me a lot of trouble, but luckily it seems to be popular enough to get a bunch of cute plushies. Including this Hasbro plush from the 2000s, some figurines, including this one with his Japanese name etched on the plaque, and a kid's finger puppet that looks derpy. Lots of cute stuff. Furret. Where do I begin with this? Our long boy definitely has risen up in popularity over the years, and that's resulted in a wide variety of plushies and figurines. You got it all: fuzzy ferrets, sleeping ferrets, ferrets that hang around your charging cable, and a ferret roller coaster figurine, you know, for your Pokemon to sit on, of course. And yet, we can't end a ferret collection without dedicating the last shelf to this ginormous life-size plushie. Look at this thing. There are so many ways you could cuddle about this thing. It is not the one you're thinking about, you disgusting freak. Personally, I really love Ferret ever since it was in my team in Heart Gold and Soul Silver way back when. Seeing all this popularity centered around Ferret has made me really happy. I really love this little boy. Just look at him go. And now on to the regional bird, Hoot Hoot. It's pretty fascinating how there's 4 different plushies, and 2 of them have Hoot Hoot with 2 legs, and another 2 that have 1. But the 1-leg Hoot Hoot is more iconic, so there's a ton of that. Some oddities I like to point out is this Pikachu figure with a Hoot Hoot clock. Technically it wouldn't count because that's just a clock themed to Hoot Hoot, not the actual mon. But come on, look at that, it's too cute for me to not put it in. We have Mega Bloks, rest in peace, a rolling toy that you can find in cereals, and a Burger King toy that has Hoot Hoot's face on a Game Boy cartridge, for some reason. Noctowl is pretty interesting because it seems like they made variants of the same Noctowl figure, but it's in its shiny form. That's probably because Ash's Noctowl in the show was shiny. Other than that, the only thing I can talk about for this is this weird dice game. I don't know how to play this game, but it's got Noctowl on it, so I'm adding this. Then we get to Letitba, which does have some interesting things, some plushies, figurines, Mega Bloks, and this figure with the elongated base. What's up with that? And since there's nothing more to talk about, I'll take a break to mention the various product lines that are significant contributors to my challenge. You might have noticed that every single Pokemon up to this point has at least 1 plush, and that's going to be true for all the Pokemon in this. That's because many of those plushies come from the Sitting Cuties set, a line of Pokemon plushies that are small, can sit, and be cute. pretty self-explanatory. But what's way more noticeable about these plushies is the fact that they have produced every single Pokemon in plush form. They've gone far into Gen 7 and are currently making brand new plushies. It's crazy. I love that at least every single Pokemon gets a plush. It seems like plushies are a really popular form of merchandise to get, so that's pretty cool. Another line of merch involving every Pokemon is the Pokemon Kids line of finger puppets. These are big in Japan, so Pokemon branded finger puppets are no-brainers. And just like Sitting Cuties, there's at least every single Pokemon made for each region. And often there are variations like clear figurines and even new releases with different posing. Other stuff that isn't mentioned is Atomi figures, which always have at least one figure. And other random stuff like keychains on the pins. And of course, the trading card games. Let's call all of these some freebies. You're gonna see the freebies in action with this Lydia collection on display. We got, of course, the Sitting Cuties, but there's also an extra plush which is very nice. Then there's the Pokemon Kids finger puppet, a Atomi figure. I've also included some Skill Ward figures, which for me are on the unofficial side, so I don't want to line them too much, but they look nice enough not to include, and no, I won't be throwing my Mirage Balls at it. I also found a random playing card with Lydia on it. Look, he's a king! Spinarak, like Sentret, also surprised me with how much variety this little bug has, including a, I'm not joking, a shiny figurine. Yeah, so there used to be old releases of Pokemon Master figure lines where they gave certain Pokemon some shiny variants, and it's super cool, considering there are very few official shiny variants of the Pokemon, unless it's somewhat popular like Poison, or it's part of a promotional tie-in for a movie. What I also love about these figurines is they also have a very shiny metallic look to them. Get it? Because they are shiny, so I guess the manufacturers took that literally and made them shiny. You'll be seeing a few more of these pop up, but this Spinarak collection definitely got a big upgrade. The same sadly could not be said for Aridos. I could not find anything, so the first time I'm going to use my Mirage Ball to set up bootleg plushie. I don't really know where this came from, but it's mass produced. Over than that, I had to use a bunch of trading cards to fill up the space. Crobat, our first new evolution of a Kanto Pokemon, is here, and there is quite the variety. Though I don't say that lighting considering the third row is full of pins, a sticker, and a marble with the face of it. I found some Pokemon Kid puppets with it using some various moves like Supersonic and Steel Wing, and some figurines, including one with Koga, which is pretty cool. Chinchou was kind of difficult to find products, but the few I could find were something of no doubt charming, including this Christmas-themed plush and a light-up keychain, which I wish there was more of these light-up products. It's because it's, you know, Chinchou's whole gimmick. But when you get to Lantern, unlike the vast open sea, total dryness. If you've seen the last video, I mentioned a trend for certain 2-stage evolutions, which the first stage tends to be more popular and get a lot of merchandise. But when it evolves, it becomes ugly and absolutely shafted. I don't know why it's standard happens, but it exists and it's definitely showing here. It doesn't happen often with Johto months because some of them are luckily popular enough to get some things. When it happens, it stings. So for this, I'll be throwing my Mirage Ball to show off a bootleg plush from the Oli factory, it seems. And you know what? I'll throw another one, why not? This collection could use a few boosting. What the hell is that? And now we are at our first wave of baby Pokemon, starting with Pichu. I'm not going to do the same joke for Pikachu where I just show you a gigantic collection. Not because Pichu doesn't have one, it does, but I do want to point out specific things that stood out to me. Like this Halloween figure, adorable plushies, and an egg figurine. Which is supposed to be Pichu laying on this egg, but from this angle it's looking way more cursed. If you know, you know. I also included some spiky ear Pichus for good measures, and the last one is probably the cutest plush I ever seen. It's a Pichu plush holding a tinier Pichu plush. Like, come on! You cannot top this! What is this? And now Cleffa, which has a lot of stuff. Nothing too much to note on, except a Christmas figurine and a plushie with a interesting pattern, and another one featuring Clefairy called a Sweet Support, which is a line of plushies featuring a bunch of baby mons with their older counterpart hugging them. They got a pull string function where if you try to pull, release, and separate them, they will quickly come back to each other. A very wholesome plush, although I do have to say, isn't it a little bit cursed that the string is placed on the Pokemon's belly, making it look like an unsevered umbilical cord? Then we get to Igglybuff, which honestly didn't have much I could find. Of course, there's the plushies including another Sweet Support with Jigglypuff, but I found more cursed stuff like this Mega Block, Mighty Beam Pill, and another Mega Block, this time being part of a specific line that represented a bunch of Pokemon with one singular block. Interesting method to not rely on molds so much, but it does look pretty weird. Then the last round of our first wave of babies is Togepi. Being one of the few Johto mons to get an early preview by being Missy's Pokemon, you're no doubt gonna find a lot of things. Some standouts are the Sleeping Easter Basket plush, a Hasbro figure, and a cookie cutter. Very yummy. Togetic, of course, playing off this evolution standard, did not fare well in the collection department. So I had to fill up this space with a bunch of keychains, pins, and random figurines. Though I did see one of the most cursed Mega Blocks I ever seen. Like, what even is that? And here we have the funny little bird, Natu. We got some fun looking plushies here, and here's one that hangs around your wrist, and an Easter plush. I was having a difficult time trying to gather this collection until I found a personal website called Little Monsters Hut that had a Natu and Xatu page, and I guess now would be a good time to mention these websites. There are plenty of websites, forums, and Reddit posts from users detailing their specific Pokemon collections and all the products they have. I didn't mention too much of them in my last video, because I didn't want to look like I was being lazy and cheating on my research by grabbing someone else's efforts. But looking back, I wish I did mention them more, because for this video topic, there are plenty of people who do in fact collect merch of specific mons, and it's just always a fascinating thing to see. You know, it's not just a strange idea that came up in my head, so why not mention a few who do make it work? Plus, these websites are really good at documenting various obscure products, and that kind of archival is something that I really couldn't find on my own doing the trifecta research of looking up products on Pokemon Center, Pokevault, and some simple Google searching. So for now on, I'm going to bring up these websites more often, and it'll be great to preserve these should they ever go down. That site too was also helpful in making the Xatu collection, where I was able to find stuff like the Pokemon Time Flush and various figures. Also shout out to another website who was helping, this time from Musime700. Our little cuddly sheep Mareep is fluffing its way. Fluffing, is that even a real verb? Mareep being a sheep full of wool means that there's no short supply of plushies, all soft and cuddly. It also includes the legendary life-size Mareep plushie. Look at this big boy right here, complete aura farbing. I also found some other oddities like a Mareep sponge, socks, lunch bag, or a towel. Don't ask why there's a random tournament around this Jack-specific figure. I don't know why either. Now when it comes to Flaffy, I thought there wouldn't be that much plushies for it, being a mid-stage and all, and typically that is like the least popular of these kind of Pokemon. But surprisingly, there were a few plushies that I could find in this collection. First is the obvious Smiling Cuties, then the regular Pokédoll, and probably the most fascinating find ever, a rare Sleeping Flaffy plush in pajamas made by Banpresto in 2001. Very few images or listings have shown up, but if you're able to get your hands on it, then it's definitely worth the effort of giving one, because look at it, it's so adorable! Ampharos has quite the variety of merchandise. We got a Mega plush, one dressed as a Dusknoir for Halloween, some figurines, a Mega Ampharos shirt, a Mega Ampharos Nightstone, and a sticker of the Ampharos mascot costume in Nagasaki. Oh yeah, I guess I should mention this, but there's a city in Nagasaki that appointed Ampharos as the quote, future support Pokemon. Basically, they made up a national Pokemon to boost tourism in the city, and there's plenty of product with Ampharos Slate slapped onto it, so I included some stickers and posters alike, but for this specific category, there's a whole wide variety of these specific type of Ampharos. Our next evolution, Blossom, is up, and I love these figurines I've chosen for this collection. The Pokeball hanging out with Pikachu, a cute little perfume bottle, and a teacup for an elegant display. There's also an officially licensed dining cup with Blossom's face on it. You know, just in case you want to bring out the fine china. This is actually part of a grass and bug themed dinner set, so expect more of these to show up in the future. Meryl is a very popular Pokemon and is round like a beach ball. Speaking of beach ball, there are no Meryl themed beach balls out there, which is really a missed opportunity. They should look into that. And this collection is really something. Like, why wouldn't you want this adorable little mouse in your collection? Some standouts here include this official Squishmallow, another sweet support plush, and a water squirter toy. Thankfully, Azumarill avoided the evolution standard curse. I'd say there's way more interesting plushies for this rather than Marill. You got a spring outfit, a dizzy one for when it's knocked out, and one with the cute little flower clip that came from the World's Honolulu event. Then there's probably one of the weirdest lines of merchandise I've ever seen. This is from a series called Hip Hop Parade, which is a line of merchandise which... I don't know how to put this in better terms, but these are a line of products that shows various Pokemon's butt. I don't know if this is a reference to a real parade that happened, but the theme seems to be that the Pokemon is stuck behind a wall. There's a magnet and folder, which makes sense because you can only see the back, but then there's also a plush keychain, which doesn't pull off the illusion that well. It just looks like a balloon now. Who came up with this? Why did people buy these? Then we have Sudowoodo, a funny looking Pokemon with some funny looking products. Like a figure with bra. And we also got a Bonsai Sweet Support, and the sign that says Fresh Trees Grows Daily. Which I appreciate the irony of, if you know the whole deal with Sudowoodo. There has been this recent push of merchandise thanks to Brassius from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, having a Sudowoodo as his ace Pokemon, so you can get things like a wristband, keychain, t-shirt, or a card sleeve, whatever you like. Politoed, the split evolution for Poliwhirl. This is a decent selection, nothing too home to write about. You got a bunch of plushies, including a hanging keychain. Other noteworthy stuff is a Politoed painting figurine, a battle museum, and a Pokemon Time figure keychain. Shout out to the Politoed's pad website, help you find that one. You ready to rocket to the top with Hoppet with Boppet. You take it all the top with all of your Hoppet. That's all I remember from that theme song. I don't even think I got it right, but Hoppets. You know we're off to a great start with the Skiploom collection when I searched for Skiploom on the Pokemon Center, and not even the Sitting Q&A's plush showed up on the results. Regardless, the Skiploom collection wasn't all that hard, except there isn't much to talk about again. One interesting plush is a Chico Chico sewing mascot plush with an interesting art style, making it look like one of those sewing balls you get to poke all those needles inside. Okay, so after writing that script, I was looking at the Skiploom plushes again, and I realized there's a really cute plush I did not include originally in my collection. It's this Pichu sitting on a Skiploom plush by Ben Presto in 2001. This wasn't in our Pichu collection, so it would have been a viable option for our Skiploom one. I'm guessing the reason I didn't add this in the collection because I thought this was just some other existing Pichu plush that was on top of a sitting cutie Skiploom, but now that I know it's own unique plush. Really shame I didn't add it in, but we can add it here in editing. You'll go over here. Finishing off the Hoppip line is Jumpluff, which just like Skiploom has a Chico Chico sewing plush. A very fuzzy tiny plush. But that's really it. Nothing interesting to note to here, so let's move right along. Apom, our funky little monkey friend, has a lot of cute plushie to see, and I do like this one with a little floaty on. There's a couple of figurines, including a figure paired with Ash Ketchum. Interesting Pokemon that pair up with Ash for a figurine, but it is one of his team members, I suppose. And other figures, including a different Pokemon like Chespin, Sobble, and Gimmighoul. I'm assuming all three of these Pokemon are popular enough in merch that I don't have to rely on these specific figures again. I mean, if I do these things yearly and I'm deep into my Scarlet and Violet collection in 10 years, there's probably going to be enough Gimmighoul stuff out there. Now we get into the Sunkern line, which is going to be really tough. Sunkern has got to be one of the most forgettable grass-type mons in the entirety of this franchise. And since Sunkern itself is already not that popular, once it evolves to Sunflora, I'm really not expecting to see just how little merch we get thanks to the evolution standard. So for this one, I'll use my Mirage Ball to show you a Sunkern hat I found on Etsy by Nerdy Treasures by Amy. I don't know why you would want this, but hey, it exists. Now, as I was going to head into the Sunflora collection, I wasn't really expecting much going to this collection. I thought I wouldn't really find that much. And that was true for the most part. It's just a bunch of the freebies and a lot of random loose variety of keychains and figurines. But then, Sunflora randomly got two strange pushes for merchandise recently. The first was a set of shirt and jackets featuring this lovely illustration of Sunflora hanging out with some sunflowers on one side and Pikachu on the other. Then the second was related to the Vincent van Gogh Museum collaboration, which was a completely peaceful event where nothing went wrong. If you're not insane and don't want this dumb Pikachu card, you can snag some other merchandise that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, including the Sunflora painting based on Van Gogh's Sunflower painting. You can get this as an actual size canvas, or TCG sleeves, or even as a pin. Granted, I know it's pretty cheating that I'm adding multiple versions of the same exact graphic to fill up the collection, but this is Sunflora we're talking about. I feel like we could be very generous with this. I was really surprised there's not a lot of Yanma stuff. The best I could find after the freebies was this 2008 Jack Pacific with glittery wings. Maybe the Yan Mega collection would fare better, but there's not much to talk about here otherwise. What isn't a surprise, however, is Wooper becoming insanely popular. You got a lot of options here, some derpy looking plushies, some nice figurines, and even more thanks to the Paldean version, which even includes some socks. I love this ice cream figurine paired with Wooper, although I'm pretty certain with this specific Wooper and the type that it is, that ice cream would pretty much taste like Quagsire! Quagsire 2 has quite the variety. Lots of very funny looking boys, including an official hand puppet that you can control at your will. How lovely. There's also these weird mouth agape plushies and a sponge. And interesting, these products are paired with a Clodsire version, which is going to be really helpful in our Paldea collection soon. There's also another squirting toy, which is nice, and what is that Quagsire doing? Oh no, you can't do that. Did anybody warn him? No, Quagsire, no. And yet again, we have another set of popular mons giving us the wide variety of merchandise to choose from, this time being the evolutions of Johto, starting with Espeon. One of my favorite figures from this collection is the dynamic statue with a lot of set pieces, like this Espeon stretching on a cliff, or chilling in the sun. There's also this really well-made bookend that pairs well with Umbreon. Even separating from that, it just looks nice to display. Other than that, we also have a sock with a plush face, some jewelries, and a life-size Espeon plush, because of course there's one. The other half Umbreon would also get its own versions of the various items I mentioned before. A bookend, a nicely made statue, socks, and another life-size plush. What makes this one different is the inclusion of two Umbreon-themed skateboards, and I just thought they looked pretty rad. And we also got a gym top featuring Umbreon, which I guess you can bring this out to the gym if you want people to know that you really love Umbreon a lot. Murkrow looks like won't be breaking our streak of pretty popular Pokemons to get a lot of stuff, because the variety here is pretty apparent. including its own trading figure, which helps out a ton. And there's even some Murkrow-themed socks. Man, it seems like Murkrow really doesn't want to break the continuous chains of giving us socks. When I was trying to search for Murkrow figures, I got this horrid bootleg showing up. Oh my god, what on earth is that? Get it away from me! Slowking 2 isn't too bad of a collection. I do like this plushie of it hanging on its side, that's pretty cute. And the keychain is placed in the middle of its body. And then there are also plenty of plushies featuring the Galarian version, but sadly, there is no figurine of Galarian Slowking, which seems to be a missed opportunity to me. Other than that, really nothing noteworthy to say. Our spooky ghost gal of Mischievous gets us a lot of interesting merchandise for our collection. I thought the plushies were going to have a lot of weird looking freaks, due to how difficult it might be to translate that flowing hair in the design. But it actually looks like they did a pretty decent job. Even this Jack-specific one isn't really that awful. I really love the figure variety. Having the set pieces be graveyards and then this weirdly looking ghosts mists, it's really nice and so well done. We also have an ornament, for your Halloween tree, I guess? And finally, there's a specific Jack-specific figurine. I included this one because this is actually a figurine I used to own as a kid, way back when Ross was selling these back in 2008. And it's still in my possession to this day, which is good because I lose like 90% of the things I used to have in my early childhood. Including my PS2 and GameCube, which you might be asking yourself, how the hell do you lose those big of a bricks? I don't know either. I do know the Xbox was at least given away to one of my cousins. Now, Unknown is a pretty unique case, because Unknown has a different form for each letter of the alphabet. And Pokemon Center, being the insane mad lads that they are, they made a sitting cutie plush for every single letter of the Unknown alphabet. I didn't want the collection to be all of that, so I made half of the shelf those plushies, and the other half different kinds of merch. But sadly, I really couldn't find much after that. Just a bunch of loose figurines, but I did found this Unknown hat, which is pretty cool. Kind of a shame, but also what are you gonna do with Unknown creatively? I think it would be really cool if they made a statue of an Unknown swarm all clustered together, like that scene in the third Pokemon movie. But this is what we have, and I guess I won't be complaining that much further. Wobbuffet, one of Team Rocket's most popular Pokemon besides Meowth. For this collection, I think the most interesting stuff to talk about is actually the various accessories and clothing articles, like these pretty cute charms, which is actually part of a merchandise line where Wobbuffet is teaching Pikachu, Audino, and Comfy how to do the iconic Wobbuffet salute. They also made plushies for these, but these are not Wobbuffet, and can't be in the Wobbuffet collection except for Wobbuffet itself. But I will add these Wobbuffet imitators to their respective collections in the future because look at this is just too adorable. Then in clothing we got a Wobbuffet sock, of course, a backpack, and a sleeved collared shirt. Imagine pulling up to a first date with this fit. Gotta say, no actual punching bag inflatable? Like, come on, the inspiration was right there. After a long streak of winners and popularity, we are then back to the usual, not a lot of interesting merchandise because this isn't a popular Pokemon, Girafarig. There really isn't that much to talk about here, except this prototype figurine training game of Girafarig that looks pretty funny, but other than that, pretty disappointing. Pineco is another one of those least popular mon I really couldn't find anything for. And when you see this awkward Link sitting cutie plush and this figurine, it's easy to understand why there really isn't that much made for it. I don't imagine it's a very easy design to translate into merchandise form. I did, however, find a Christmas ornament, which was part of a set of ornaments featuring different Pokemon, including Pineco. Probably one of the most random inclusion of Pokemon for this type of stuff, but I really love it. I mean, I guess pine cones are related to Christmas because you find them in the winter. So I guess really in that case it was a happy coincidence for Pineco. Forge's True is another figure that's hard to translate in flesh form, and thanks to the evolution standard, there really isn't that much to talk about, and it's not that popular. It is popular, however, in the competitive scene. But I guess the competitive scene doesn't want to buy that much Fortress stuff. Dunsparce. Now this one really surprised me because I thought Dunsparce was going to be one of those joke Pokemon, but it's the kind of joke Pokemon that the fanbase really love and care for, especially to the recent evolution of the Dunsparce. But not really much to see here. The only interesting thing that I could find is a rare Buroburo plush from 2013. It's a plush where you can pull its tail and the cord will attract to it while vibrating. That's pretty cute. Shout out to the Sunny Clearing for finding this one. Gligar is yet another mon that not many people care about, thus this will reflect in the merchandising. The only thing to note is I like how in these various Pokemon Kids finger puppets, Gligar started to get this pink color before slowly shifting in a cooler purple color. Interesting to see how the design slowly shifts in color palette from the classic to the modern era. Alright, these merchandise offerings are getting pretty dry. We need a popular Pokemon to break that streak and give us an outstanding collection. Really? Snubbull? Okay, look, I get it. I can see why Snubbull has its fans. I mean, it's just a Pokemon version of a pug. But I guess I wasn't expecting how much Snubbull there is to see. We have a Spring collection, one for Detective Pikachu, a Build-A-Bear, a Hasbro plush, a Christmas variation, and even this dog toy looking thing released by of all companies, the Hallmark Company. I got most of these plushies from two Reddit posts, one from embarrassed_hope2611 and another from Anonymous, as that count was deleted. According to that one, there is also a reversible Sibber plush that turns into a Pokeball, but I couldn't find that one. Overall, a very surprising collection, no doubt. Unfortunately, when it comes to Granbull, the guy is just too ugly to get the same amount of love Snubbull did, so there isn't much. There is a recent merch push with Granbull being paired with Elite Four member Lacey from the Scarlet and Violet Indigo Disc DLC. Also, funny thing, I was looking at images of a Pokemon Kids Granbull finger puppet, and for whatever reason, the seller gave us this image of the bottom of the puppet. But from this angle, it looks like a very scary, deformed 3D demon head someone messing around with in Blender. Like, that's just kind of scary. Alright, let's not sugarcoat this one. Quailfish. Freaking Quailfish, man. This was by far one of the hardest collections to build. Yes, even harder than Victory Bell or Sunkern. Like, at least the Sunflower line was something. Quailfish, who even remembers Quailfish, man? There's a Tumblr post that lamented about how nobody acknowledged this Pokemon, no fan art, and it was never even in discussion where Quailfish was brought up. And I believe them. Look at this abysmal collection. Okay, so let's start off with the merchandise in the third dimension. You got your usual freebies, your sitting cuties, finger puppet, and tummy figure, and that's it. Yep, nothing else. We got some various stickers and keychains including some Hisuian forms, and that didn't help us out either. I eventually had to fill 2 rows with more Pokemon cards, and no joke, even that had slim offerings. See these cards? This is like 85% of all Quailfish cards in the entirety of the TCG. All around, just pretty awful stuff. I did not have fun making this collection. Alright, we're gonna need a bit of a palate cleanser with that, and thankfully we jump right into the coolest Pokemon ever, Scizor. And this collection does not disappoint. We got a variety of plushes and action figurines, including one Mega Scizor. My favorite is the Scizor armband, which looks like they got the inspiration from the Game Boy box art for this sleek purple cover. It looked so nice. Shuckle was a lot like Dunsparce, where I assumed that its niche popularity would give it more substance. I guess I was gaslit by a certain YouTube animation company that focused a lot on gaming. Anyways, it wasn't that hard to build a collection, just nothing of note to mention. So I'll use another Mirage Ball to give you this custom 3D printed fidget toy of Shuckle. Come to think of it, Shuckle will make a killer fidget toy. Also, not in the collection, but I do want to show you this cute thing I found on Instagram. It's a custom Shuckleberry berry juice container that was made by by Miscellaneous Smell. I thought it looked pretty cute. Heracross, another one of Ash's Pokemon, has some pretty neat stuff, especially this funny looking action figure. I always keep forgetting Heracross has wings, which always, surprise me when I'm looking at these figures. We also got some mantle pins and a dining plate, just in case you want to bring out the fine china. Wait, I already made that joke. Sneevil is a mischievous little one, and you can find it in a spring suit, the Hisuian variant, trading figure, and especially... What the fuck? It's the little birthday boy himself! I love this row we have of TCG cards with all the exact same pose of the Sneasel art. First being the original, the second a reprint, and the third is a repaint. There's something so iconic about this, the way the pose gives this intimidating look, and the lighting is also meticulously well put together, and the attack is a beast too. Teddy Ursa is literally the teddy bear Pokemon, so of course there's a lot of Teddy Ursa plushies, including a Halloween witch set, a Squishmallow, Build-A-Bear plush wearing a friend ball hoodie, a sleeping one, and even that same weird plush toy from the Hallmark company. Even from all that, you get Teddy Ursa Bowl, Cookie Cutter, and a charm from 25 Nicole. Really nice. Ursaring sadly got affected by the evolution standard, and therefore has nothing worth mentioning, so we're just gonna move right along. Slug my I'd say my cargo got hit by the evolution standard, but Slugma wasn't even that big of a hit to begin with, so there's really no difference here. While I couldn't find much, I did want to bring up something funny I encountered. On the Pokemon Collector's live journal forums, which is another site I've used to help me find some stuff, Lava Cookie asked if there was any Magcargo merchandise as well as Politoed Quagsire. There were a lot of replies, but this insane bad lad known as Four-Eyed Alien posted their entire Magcargo collection for reference. Granted, it really didn't help me that much since a lot of this collection is stuff I found on my own, and there's some custom stuff that I can't include, but I just find it really funny that someone out there was asking specifically Magcargo products, and this person who built an entire Magcargo collection for quite some time was like, finally, it's my turn to be useful for once. Swinub is just your little funky hog, not really much to say, except I really like this cute Delibird riding on one as a plushie and a Piplup sleeping. That's delightful. Piloswine was a bit tougher to get, but there is some neat stuff I could find. I especially love the figures where it's opening its little eye flaps. Also, this Christmas one is really nice, but I had a hard time deciding if this is going to be included in the collection, because there are a lot of Pokemon featured in this. But I figured, get it? Figured, that Piloswine is the focal point here. Sneasel already had a collection, and Piplup and Buizel I feel like are already going to be popular enough to get a bunch of stuff without relying on this specific merchandise. So therefore, this is a Piloswine figurine. Corsola was a really fun one to build. You have a lot of different plushies, including one wearing a cute flower, a Galarian form, and a shiny plushie. Not an actual shiny, but a really sheen texture nonetheless. I really love this Galarian plush. There's just something really funny about them making a Pokemon that was supposed to warn the others about the dangers of pollutions bleaching our corals and destroying the ecosystems, and the Pokemon company thought, nah, just give it a cute little Christmas bow, it's fine. And on the second row, we have Corsola playing a gold and silver ball. Get it? It's just like the games. Whoa! And last thing I want to mention is this really well made picture with Corsola on it. It's got a Vaporeon Chiller too, but this would look really, really nice on your shelf. And it's just, look at this. Look at the craftsmanship on this. It's so awesome. I don't know if this is exactly ceramic or plastic, but if it is ceramic, then it is just insane how much they were able to put into this. It'll look really nice on your shelf. You know, if you're not thirsty for some cold glass of water. Remoraid, kinda like Quillfish, doesn't have a lot of stuff to see. I was tempted to add a bunch of Manatine plushies with Remoraid in it, but I have a feeling Manatine doesn't have that much stuff either, so it's gonna be a bit reversed for now. What I did find is this official Remoraid Tazoo. And when I looked at this Tazoo, it made me realize, oh shoot, have I completely forgot about Tazos this whole time? Tazos, I'm kind of interchanging. I think it's pronounced as Tazos. There's nothing more to talk about this Remoraid collection, so I'm just gonna go a little bit of a crash course to explain the Pokemon Tazos. Tazos are basically the Mexican versions of Pogs that would often show up in various bags of chips. They had the same gameplay. You stacked a bunch of Tazoos, knock them down, and collect whatever discs were facing on the backside. And while Pogs had a short lifespan in the 90s, Tazoos were significantly longer, going way until the 2020s. The final nail in the coffin being when the Mexican government created Secretas de tu Salud, or Secrets of Your Health, which were created to combat childhood obesity. One tactic included removing cartoon mascots from junk food packaging to persuade fewer kids to buy them. This also included the discontinuation of featuring Tazos from bags of chips, so they had to go too. And any other countries that had Tazos followed suit. As for Pokemon, they had a pretty strong relationship during the Pokemania, and just like the freebies, every single Pokemon has been made into Tazoo, which would have been really helpful for me to know, considering there's a lot of Pokemon that were giving a lot of struggling. They have made Tazoos from the first and second generation of Pokemon from 1989 to 2001. And in 2008, Pokemon and Tazoos returned once again to give us Tazoos of all Pokemon from the third generation. Even though Diamond and Pearl had already been out for 2 years, but yeah, whatever, okay. So yeah, from now on, I'm gonna add these Tazoos into our collections, especially to the bonds that are giving me some trouble. It'd be nice to add some country-exclusive merchandise that isn't just Japan or the United States. However, just because we have increased our knowledge doesn't mean things will be easy. First off, since many of these Tazoo include Pokemon with evolutions, they decided to make these lenticular Tazoos, which Remoraid Incase has both Remoraid and Octillery on one Tazoo. There are singular Tazoos featuring one Pokemon, but that means having to do extra research and finding those specific Tazoos. Second, for some reason, somewhere in Peru, there are people producing, I'm assuming unofficial, new Tazoos for all of these bonds in 2002, which does mean I have to type in the specific year to get what I want. Not only have they made new Tazos for older generation Pokemon, but even for some of the new generations, as recent as Paldea, which is actually really cool. Sorry for the long Tazoo tangent. I thought it was really interesting to bring up. Alright, continuing on. Octillery doesn't have anything to note, except our newly added Tazoo in the bunch, and this other disc puzzle that isn't a Tazoo or a Pog. Honestly, I don't know what this is, but it does have copyright Pokemon on it, so I'm gonna add it in. I am gonna throw another Mirage Ball to show you this other 3D printed fidget toy. Which makes a lot of sense considering it's one of the most popular 3D printed things and it's just sold in the market. Delibird is a Pokemon based on Santa Claus. That says alone have merchandising potential, so you know what that means. Full slew of Delibird Christmas merchandise. We got everything, including cute plushies, this fuzzy felt texture, and another cute plush where Pichu's in its stack. Man, I really like all the Pichu hanging out with other Pokemon plushies. And you got a plenty of ornaments, but I chose this one with the snow globe. And we also have a plush where it gives Delibird a Santa hat. Literal cherry on the top for our festive little penguin. Mantine is a really interesting Pokemon that I wish had more merch. If I include all the Mantine that had a Remoraid into the Remoraid collection, then we really would have nothing for Mantine itself. Which is funny considering they dropped the Remoraid sometime later on, but yeah, not too much in the plush and figure variety. I decided to add a Tazo for this collection. Not gonna lie, this Skarmory collection was pretty disappointing. I was expecting way more stuff considering Skarmory is pretty popular, but apparently that didn't translate well into merchandise. What I will say about this Skarmory collection is that it has two rare oddities. One being a prototype figure for the training figure game, and a DX Tomy action figure. I'm not kidding, I could not find any other pictures or listings of this at all. The only picture that proves its existence is another Pokemon collector's live journal forums from Flag. Truly a hidden gem. One last thing I'd like to shout out is this full art Skarmory Pokemon card. The way the artist did the metal sheen is really interesting, gives it some chrome robotic appearance. Made me wish we got a Paradox Future form of Skarmory. Houndour is a collection that has a lot of oddities within it. We got 2 plushies, another DX Tomy figure, some socks, and most damning of all, a rare Hasbro figurine that is selling on eBay for, no joke, $1,200. Which really begs a question. Do you love Houndour that much? Are you willing to spend a month's rent on it? Houndour really ain't got much. There is some cool trading card art, but that's really it. I had to fill this collection with 2 Tazoos, one of them being called Flippos, which is the Tazoos that's sold in the Netherlands and Belgium. Kingdra, like Houndour, didn't fare well in the collection. We got plushies, Puppet, a Tazoo, a bookmark featuring Juan, and some cool trading card art. And that's pretty much it. A bit of a letdown, considering I really love Kingdra. I think it's one of my favorite dragon Pokemon to the Johto region. I mean, that's not really a competition, considering it is the only dragon Pokemon in Johto, but it's still a really cool design nonetheless. Our adorable little Phanpy sure doesn't disappoint. We'll start with these lovely figures. Phanpy is playing in the water and is riding with Cleffa. And of course, a ton of plushies. I do find it interesting how the blue has different tints throughout each of the plushies. The Soda plushies tend to have more of a lighter pastel blue, then some have their blues muted, and other goes for a bolder baby blue. There's also McDonald's plush, which I find notable because in the promotions at the time, Phanpy was always paired with Pikachu, which means that at a certain time they viewed Phanpy as the second-rate mascot, which I find interesting. Meanwhile, Donphan has an okay selection. I imagine trying to recreate the part turning into a wheel is a very hard thing to do. You might think those 2 finger puppets are the same, but if you look at their eyes, they're clearly different molds, so they're including in the collection. Checkmate, atheists. My favorite merch for this collection is this Donphan behind a bush, because it's like, bro, what are you doing underneath there? And then we have Porygon 2, which surprisingly doesn't have much compared to the regular Porygon. I guess Porygon 2 ended up becoming one of those neglected middle stage ones. Well, non-competitive, but you know what I mean. I love these specific plushies that randomly decided not to give Porygon 2 a neck. I'm guessing the head could tip down from all that weight, but it still adds to the cuteness and silliness, because like, look at these little boys, they're so funny, look at them. Stantler to me seems like it's going to be one of those Johto mons that are completely forgotten and they're going to get absolutely nothing in the merchandise department. But shockingly, there is surprisingly a decent amount of stuff for a Stantler collection, even though I had to cheat with the Pokemon Kids figure, including a clear and normal variant of the figure. I guess what also helps for Stantler's case is that it is a reindeer Pokemon, meaning we get to see a small push for Christmas-related merch, just like this holiday figurine and a Christmas sweater. The funniest kind of merch you can get is this enamel Stantler pin in this acrylic stand, which is the exact same stock art of it, except one of them has a Pikachu on it. One of the most interesting tidbit is that originally Stantler's little puffy tail was originally white, but later was changed to be the same color as its fur. Interesting stuff. Smeargle, being the funny artist Pokemon, was bound to get a lot of merchandise. I got most of my stuff here from another Pokemon collector, this time being Slothy Shroom with their extensive Smeargle collection and documentation. They were able to help me find things like the 2001 Smeargle UFO plushie, the Mompoke Smeargle with a funny looking face, a movie box set with a shiny Smeargle because of its red tip, a Terracloth Kura Lady plush with an even rarer blue tip Smeargle, and a 2002 Bandai plush, which, according to Slothy Shroom, showed up nowhere without any warning. How spooky. The last thing of interest is a Brazil exclusive gacha figurine of Smeargle. I'm not sure what exact set this came from, since reshoots were hard tracked, but Slothy Suits said this was from Brazil, and even if that might not be true, I'm glad this figure was able to be documented, as it could have been lost to time. Tyrogue has a lot of interesting stuff in the figure department specifically, like the fact that Tyrogue is part of the Master Figure Collection, meaning there is a shiny version of this toy, which, ironically enough, is much easier and cheaper to find than its regular version. We also have a trading figure that's in a cool punching pose, but yeah, that's pretty much it, nothing more to say here. Hitmontop seems to have more merchandise when sitting upright than upside down as a top. Actually, I think I might have accidentally put these two exact same pins as different items because when I was looking at the Pokemon Center, I saw a single release of this pin as well as a 4-pack that looked different simply because one was upside down, even though it was Uzzin, and the other was Uzzin, and it looked like two different things. I don't know, I'm just gonna keep it that way because I think it's funny. I don't really have much to say with the collection itself because I'm just really disappointed with this. Like, really? All of this time, and we still don't have a Hitmontop spinning top toy? Not even as a trading figure game, a Hitmontop where they spin? Like, come on, man. It's been 25 years of Hitmontop and it still hasn't come through? This is a crime. Smoochup is an interesting case, where I feel like Jinx used her future vision and followed that evolution standard curse of having less merch as an evolution Pokemon. But it had to wait until Smoochum was released a year later. Because wow, there is a lot of Smoochum plushies. I don't know if it's because Smoochum is way cuter than Jinx, or because it had less controversy tied to it as it was already made with the purple skin in mind, so manufacturers don't have to feel less awkward about doing it. I do love this 2001 Banpresto plush of Smoochie because it's just so dumb looking. She's gonna ask you to look like if you have games on your phone. Or since it's 2001, more appropriate to say a Pikachu movie. Alright, now it's time for Elekid. Personally my favorite Babymon design-wise. There's a lot of cute plushies, but there is one side effect from these plushies that I found really funny. Due to the age and shipping conditions of these Elekids, sometimes they'll be photographed with prongs that don't stand upright or tend to drift off. So much so that you can even find photo of droopy drawings that arch down like they're bunnies, like this is some Pikachu variant going on around here. The most notable culprits are the Tomy plush and Jack Pacific, which I did not include due to how rampant this issue is. Sucks that there seems to be varying levels of quality control and age issued with these Elekid plushies, preventing the display them how they were intended to be, but I still think they're pretty funny. Another thing I found is this random gaming article lamenting on how there are no Elekid toys. Okay, so the whole point of this is to document a Twitter user who realizes there are no Jack-specific Elekid figurines, because the exact size Jacks would have to produce them would be a health hazard, as kids could try and plug the progs into a nearby outlet. So because of this, there aren't really that Elekid merch out there. Well, clearly that really wasn't a disadvantage to us, because there are a ton of other kinds of Elekid figurines, mostly from Japan, but we do have this old Hasbro figurine, Mega Bloks, and an Elekid standing on a Super Ball, which is what they call the Great Ball in Japan. And sadly, of all the baby Pokemon we have in Johto, Magby got shafted big time here. Like, what the heck is this? You mean to tell me that no one wants to own more plushes of baby Magmar? Wait, I think I get it now. Miltank was another surprise to see that there isn't too much stuff for. Miltank is a funny cow. People like collecting cows, so why isn't there more? Some additional plushies I found other than the freebie are a lion plush, and this thing, a wooden Kime Komi doll made to celebrate the year of the ox. I don't know why they decided to make this, but hey, I'm glad it exists, and it definitely makes this collection a lot more interesting. Also, I didn't know they made real Moo Moo milk, but apparently they did and has a Miltank stamp on it, and this would have been eligible for a collection. And for our last Evolutionmon, Blissey. It has nothing. Really? I guess Chansey is a bit more popular, but there does seem to be a lot of merch with a modern Nushdroid, so I include a lot of that. Otherwise, a pretty disappointing selection, I must say myself. And now we get into legendary beasts, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. Because these Pokemon have the same wide variety and series of merchandise, I'm going to talk about all three of them in this segment. All three have a diverse selection of plushies, but one of the most interesting cases is the Pokemon Center plush from 2009, where you can have all three plushies of the beasts, and their shiny form, which is pretty cool. Again, shiny stuff seems to be rare and only regulated to legendaries, but at least the legendaries have cool shiny colors. Well, most of them at least. The other notable plushies are the gigantic life-size plushies, this time being in the New York Pokemon Center from 2001. These are hard and expensive to find, but it's probably the holy grail of your legendary beast collection. And man, there sure are a lot of life-size gigantic plushies in Johto. Other than that, there are a lot of cool figurines, nanoblocks, and even some nice drift. Suicune significantly has more of the latter too, I mentioned. Possibly because of it being the poster child for Crystal version, but I love it. And now time for our pseudo-legendary mon, starting off with Larvitar. A cute little mon that has a lot of variety. We got a sleeping Larvitar, a soda plush, this guy, a figure with this text box that apparently reads that it's ignoring the trainer's order, which is pretty funny. This cool diorama with Larvitar being surrounded by flames, and socks, because of course there's a Larvitar socks. Unlike Dragonair, which is as popular as Dratini and Dragonite, when Larvitar evolved into Pupitar, it completely nosedived the merchandising reputation. I mean, look at this abysmal collection. A far cry to the variety we got last time. I mean, I kinda do get it. Pupitar is in an awkward middle stage evolution, going for a completely different design before becoming Tyranitar. And for Dragonair, there was that consistency between Dratini and Dragonite that didn't get trailed behind. But even when Dragonair gets a different design into Dragonite, Pupitar doesn't get enough love because, well, it's ugly. I think this Reddit thread from LVFL showing off their Larvitar and Tyranitar collection from Reddit really explains the public opinion of a Pupitar. No love for Pupitar? I don't like Pupitar. LOL. But of course, when we jump right back into Tyranitar, we get an absolute beast of a collection. You got it all, plushies, and more plushies of its Mega, this cool diorama plush with a crystal setting backdrop, a sculpture featuring Elite Four Grimsley, an arrow block, a skateboard, and a t-shirt with one of the most badass lettering I've seen spelling out the word Stone Edge. Overall, an incredible collection, and one well-deserved for the King of Mountain Eaters. You will not be disappointed. And now, we have finally reached the box art legendaries for the Johto games. Of course, being the protector of the seas and the skies, you are no short supply of things to collect for them. Lugia has a ton of plush variety, including a silver-colored Lugia to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the release of Pokemon Silver, and another, and the last of the gigantic plushies appearance, one with a Pikachu hanging out, one with a sleeping Pikachu on it. But what I am more interested in are the figurines, which give us more opportunity for well-sculpted and dynamically posed Lugias, including this bookend, this bonsai tree, and my favorite figurine, a bottle cap figurine from 7-Eleven of all places. I also included this card art for Lugia because this has got to be one of the best cards of modern Pokemon. Just like, look at this painting. I mean, the dynamic movement, the lighting, the shading, it's all just so meticulously well put together. It's just awesome. And then we reach into Ho-Oh. It's pretty much the same deal. Gold colored plush, sadly no giant, and a bookend to complement Lugia. And there's also a nicely posed figurine with fire set pieces, an arrow block, and a bunch of Archwing figurines. Pretty neat. And lastly, our final Pokemon, the mythical time-traveling Celebi. Just like Mew, there's a lot to choose from. A cute plushie with a flower. I really love these figurines that give Celebi a nice forest or waterfall to hang around with. This nature is timeless sign, which is pretty funny because if you remove Celebi from this sign, it would look like one of those generic signs you find at a Michael's Hobby Supply store. A Johto poster, and some good ding old socks. And lastly, we have an entire row dedicated to Shiny Celebi. The reason why there's so much Shiny Celebi is all thanks to a little movie about a boy and his monkey. And there we have it, another collection full of 100 unique Pokemons completed. We have seen over 1,500 different items that were created and mass-produced to give us a representation of different kinds of Pokemon, both big and small. It's really impressive when you think about it. I don't know if my skills at grabbing collections got better, or if Gen 2 is secretly more popular than Gen 1, but it's great to see. One thing I was surprised is that some evolution mons tend to be as popular as their first stage counterpart, really showing you the charm that Gen 2 has. It's amazing for a franchise as big as Pokemon, there's always something for everybody. There's always something for everyone, even if you're a Quillfish fan. Now I'm going to be out of here and I will be be getting my collection for the entire Hoenn video. Hopefully that's not going to be another 2 years. I'm Tailsweet, and let's see what the next video brings us.